welcome and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria and today's video is just going to be a bit of a spend a bookish week with me, kind of what I'm currently reading, going for a bit of book shopping, just all those good bookish things. So today I will be actually heading into town. I'm probably going to go into Waterstones, probably into Bargain Books, into the works, just to see what's there. I'm not planning to buy anything, but famous last words, we never know, there may be something that I'll pick up. And yeah, I'll give you a few updates just on what I'm reading. At the minute I'm actually reading The Poppy War and it's a buddy read with someone on Instagram, so yeah, excited to see how this goes. So far so good, but I'll give you a bit of an update on this later. But yeah, just a bit of a bookish video, just doing all those good bookish things. But yeah, I'll take you with me while I go shopping. If I pick anything up, I'll do a little bit of a haul, and yeah, let's see how it goes. So back from town now, so just thought I'd show you the goods and what we ended up with. And I ended up buying 5 books, which definitely wasn't on the agenda for today, but here we are. So the first shop we went into was Waterstones, and I did have one book in mind that I wanted to pick up, which was the sequel to The Poppy War. So I haven't read the synopsis for this one because I am still reading The Poppy War, so I don't know what happens and I don't want to be spoiled by the synopsis of this one. But yeah, basically this is just the sequel to The Poppy War, and so far I'm really enjoying that one. Definitely think I'm going to be continuing the series, so just wanted to pick up the sequel so that I have it on hand for when I finish that one. And then the next one I picked up in Waterstones is actually from a local author here in Northern Ireland. So it's The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. And this one, it kind of follows, I believe it's like Celtic mythology. It's kind of a spin or a retelling on that. And I haven't really read any fantasy that kind of centers around that. So I just thought it would be interesting to read this just to see how she has interpreted that, and it's something I was always really interested in growing up as well, and always good to support a local author, and this is actually signed by her as well, so yeah, I thought that would be a good one to pick up. Then next we went into Bargain Books, which is basically the works. I think they've maybe bought over that store, but we went in there because usually they have good discounts on certain books, and there was one book in particular I was looking for by Mariana Zapata, and it was The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. So there's been some new covers brought out recently, and that was the one I was looking for. They didn't have that one, but I did see this one there when I was in. All roads lead here, and again I just heard that she's really good at kind of slow burn romance. The build up is really good. It does kind of pull at your heartstrings sometimes as well. So I just wanted to try one of hers. So I'll try this one and hopefully I'll enjoy it. And then hopefully I'll be able to get the other ones as well. And then we went round to the other works as well. And I was just having a look just to see if there was anything that perhaps wasn't in the first store. And one of the ones that I've seen was Jojo Moyes, The Girl You Left Behind. Now I've read from her Me Before You, which is a book I read absolutely years ago. It's a bit more of a literary fiction / romance. And I haven't read from her in quite some time, but I'm kind of feeling in a romance romance/literary fiction mood at the moment. So when I seen this marked down, I thought it would be a good one to try, and the story sounds quite good. It seems to be kind of not a dual timeline as such, but it seems to be two women following their lives, and it's like a century apart, and I'm guessing there's going to be some connection there in some way. So I just thought that would be an interesting one and a bit of a change from some of the genres I'm usually reading. So if I want to break from fantasy for a while, it might be a good one to pick up, and I think it would be an easy read as well. And then the last one I almost left the store without picking up, so it's the novella in the Powerless series, so Powerful. Now I haven't read Powerless yet, but I've heard, you know, some really great things about it. I've heard that it is really good. I've heard it's kind of comparable to The Hunger Games, which is a book series that I absolutely adore. But the reason I wanted to pick this up without reading that yet is because it is the edition that has these sprayed edges, and I just thought if I end up loving Powerless, I'll really kick myself for not picking this up, and especially because it was £5, I'll really kick myself for not getting it. And if I don't like it, I can always donate it, or, you know, sell it to someone relatively cheaply so that they can kind of benefit from it. But yeah, as soon as I seen that, I thought might as well pick it up. So yeah, not bad all in all for someone who said they weren't going to be buying anything when they went out. Ended up with 5 books, but when you go in the works and the prices are that good, you just can't resist really. And then just to give a quick update on my current read, so I think I mentioned earlier that I'm reading The Poppy War with my friend on bookstagram, so I'll put her name here. It's Breakfast at Tiffany's, but we're doing a buddy read on this one, and I'm about, I would say probably about 20% through, maybe 25% in, and so far I'm absolutely loving this. So it's by R.F. Kuang, sorry if I didn't say that, and essentially this one we follow an orphan, Rin, who was living with her aunt and uncle at the start, and she was really severely mistreated. She was kind of working in a shop helping her aunt and uncle who they sold opium, and essentially at the start of the book she's told that she is going to be married off. I think she's around 14 at the start of the book, so if that kind of sets the tone, it is quite a grim read at some points. But yeah, she's told at the age of 14 she is going to be married off to quite an old man so that they can kind of get rid of her basically and get some money for her. Now in order to kind of avoid that, she ends up going for what is called the Kuju. So these are some tests that basically help people get into this coveted academy where you train to be a warrior for the kingdom, and she ends up acing that. She ends up getting into this academy, and essentially the book is following her and her journey there, how she develops as a warrior, as a pupil within this academy. And yeah, I mean, so far so good. As I say, there are some incredibly dark themes in this. I think so far at 25%, one of the things I said to my friend was basically it just has no chill. Like it's just something happening page after page. There's just action on each page. But what I will say is, even though there's quite a lot of dark themes, I think R.F. Kuang's really putting in some comedic relief in there. You know, some of the side characters and their interactions and the banter have been really good as well. So it doesn't feel all that grim when you're reading it. It's just when you kind of think back to some of the things that are happening, you realise really how dark this is. So I would say definitely look up some trigger warnings. There's been a few subjects that I would say would maybe be triggering for some people. So just to kind of look into that, just and approach with a bit of caution if you are looking to pick this one up. But as I say, just in terms of the writing is absolutely amazing in here. I really like Babel by R.F. Kuang, so I was pretty sure I was going to enjoy this as well, but just because it's quite a different story, I wasn't too sure how this was going to fare. But yeah, I think I was looking up, and R.F. Kuang was actually 22 when she wrote this, or at least when it was published, and that just blows my mind considering how good it is. But yeah, really good so far, really enjoying it. As I say, only about 25% in, so I can only imagine it's going to get even better. But yeah, I'll give you a quick update once I've read a little bit more, but so far so good. Okay, so not sure if the lighting's the best here, but it's getting a bit later and it's been a bit dull today, so the best we can do. But yeah, I just thought, I mentioned earlier obviously that I do have a reading journal, and I'm basically going through trying to get it updated. So as I say, I think I got up to the end of February and then I basically forgot about it. Life got in the way and I just didn't end up updating it. But yeah, so just to give you a quick update, this is the reading journal. So I got this off Amazon. I'll see if I can find the link because I just thought it was really pretty. Had a really pretty design on it, and it does actually have like sprayed edges as well. So yeah, just thought it was really pretty, and it's a kind of good size as well. I didn't want it to be too big or too small, so this is kind of the perfect size. And just to go through some of the spreads, so I just have the first one here. As you can see, it's kind of like a collage kind of vintage style that I've gone for. So you've just got your cover page, and then I kind of just put in some of my reading goals. So I thought this year I didn't want to be too kind of hard on myself in terms of the goals that I had, so a lot of it seemed to centre around kind of enjoying the reading that I was doing, you know, building a TBR of books that I already had. That's not going quite very well. I am buying more books than I'm reading, but we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, so just trying to read the books that I have, trying to enjoy them, trying to make sure that I'm not rushing through, you know, taking my time with reading as well. And I do think that I've been doing that. I've been trying to slow down, trying not to read too quickly so that I'm not actually taking the story in. So yeah, I think I've been kind of keeping to these pretty good. Then the next one is just a spread on how I rate my books. And then the next one, which I do need to update because I've had more than 2 5-stars this year, is just kind of a record of all the 5 stars I've had so far in 2024. And then the next one was my priority TBR for 2024, and I was looking through this the other day, and basically half of the books that are on here I have read, which is good. So I do just have a list of around 15 books that I wanted to try and get to in 2024, and so far I'm around halfway through, so pretty much on track to be able to read all of those in 2024. And then again, one that I need to update, but this is just my series tracker, so hopefully all the series that I complete will be put into there. Favorite books of each month, any anticipated releases, so any releases that are coming out in the year, I'm trying to record these here so that I remember them. And then obviously this one is quite blank because it'll probably be near the end of the year when I update this, but this is just the highlights of the year. Then one that I skipped by mistake is actually the yearly stats, so kind of how many books I read, how many pages, what format they were, longest book, shortest book, favorite book, all of that good stuff. And then we kind of get into the monthly spreads, which I did try and keep quite simple because I didn't want it to be too convoluted, with the hope that I would keep it up, but obviously I haven't. But yeah, so we just kind of have our monthly kind of cover page, and then here are kind of my goals, any TBR that I had, and then kind of put it in there. I do have a section for buddy reads because I am an avid buddy reader. I love to kind of do that at least once a month. I'll have a buddy read with someone from bookstagram, or you know, usually it's a couple, so I do kind of record those there just so that I can look back on those and kind of have those memories as well. Then I just have my reading log, my favorite books of the month, and then if I've had any kind of favorite books of the month or books that really stood out, I will do a little spread for them. So that was the If We Were Villains spread, and then House of Flame and Shadow as well because I read that in January. The last spreads that I put in for my monthly is just the stats, so how many books, formats, longest, shortest, and all that good stuff as well. And then we go into February, and it's kind of just a repeat of the same. So I have gotten up to the end of February. I do just need to start March now, and hopefully I'll be able to go through all of the months and get those updated and get it up to, as I say, the end of June. So the 4 July, I'm starting at the start of the month. I can put in my kind of goals and my TBR as it's happening, and then I just need to keep it updated throughout the rest of the year. So yeah, I'm going to sit here, try and get a bit of this updated, maybe do 1 or 2 spreads, and yeah, I'll update you once I'm done and let you know how far I've got. Okay, so I only had about 45 minutes to do a spread, so I just wanted to get the cover page and my goals for March. So obviously I'm doing these kind of retrospectively, the books that I wanted to read in March. I can't remember from looking at the books I read, the ones that I wanted on my priority. So yeah, this is the spread for March. I've kind of lightened up the colours a little bit just because it's coming into the springtime at this point. So yeah, same kind of formula as before, just putting in my priority TBR, any buddy reads, the goals that I had, and this year I do want to do quite a few rereads, so that's why I've kind of got it on my cover page. But yeah, that's where I got to. But as I say, I'm going to be working this week to try and get myself the whole way up to the end of June so that I can be ready for July when it kicks off. So just jumping on to give you a quick update on my reading with the Poppy Wars. So I'm about 70% of the way through now, so a lot has happened since the last time I updated you, and I think I did say in my last update that this is a book that basically has action on every single page, so it kind of just keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. I think one thing I will say about this book is there's very long chapters, so the chapters are around, you know, 30, maybe 40 pages for some of them. There are kind of breaks in between the chapters, so I haven't felt so bad about maybe putting it down mid-chapter because there are some really natural breaks. But I suppose that's only one criticism I would say for this, is the chapters are really long. But I would say that it doesn't make it, you know, meandering or feel like a drag when you're reading it, because it is really action-packed. But I think kind of at this point we have got into a bit more of the world building. The world building has been impeccable in this one, and we're getting a bit more into the lore of the land and kind of where the story's going to be going. Because initially I was kind of wondering if this was a magical realism or if there was anything to do with kind of fantasy elements in this, because it is always categorized as fantasy. So it was interesting to kind of see how that's developed and where the story's going with that. And I just think for a story, especially for me, so I'm mainly a romantasy or a romance reader, and for me, having a fantasy that has zero romance in it so far anyway, and still keeping me engaged, I mean, that's something. I mean, for me, that just really shows how good this book is, how good the story is, how engaging it is. I'm really kind of enjoying how, even though you kind of are supposed to root for the main characters, you're kind of unsure about some of the decisions that Rin is making, as well as some of the people around her and whether they're really good or they bad. You know, it's not this kind of morally grey. There are some things that they're doing are, you know, just morally wrong. It's not grey, but you're still kind of rooting for them. And I do really like that juxtaposition within my head of thinking, these are the good guys, we should be rooting for them, but is what they're doing right, you know? So it's a really interesting concept, and so far, as I say, I'm just really enjoying this one. It's slightly different than most of the things I've read before, and yeah, just excited to keep going with it. Another thing I'm just really loving about it is really just the character development in here as well, and not only for Rin, but also kind of the side characters around her, the characters that we've known kind of from the first few chapters, and how they're kind of being built around her, and again keeping us guessing in terms of who are her allegiances going to be with, you know, who should she be backing, who should she be allying with. And yeah, I just think it's been really interesting and kind of keeping me on the edge of my seat to see where this story goes. I couldn't even guess where it's going to go. You know, most books that I read, I have somewhat of an idea of where the story's going to go and how it's going to end, but with this one I absolutely have no idea, and I'm just absolutely loving that aspect of it. So yeah, really loving it so far. I can't wait to keep reading on and to kind of get to the conclusion of this one. I'm guessing because it's a trilogy, it's likely this will have a cliffhanger at the end, and yeah, just highly anticipating that and highly anticipating wanting to pick up the next book straight away. So yeah, I'll give you a bit more of an update once I've read a bit more, and probably once I'm done, because as I say, I've only got about 30% left. So yeah, once I finish this one, I'll give you another update. And I think I forgot to update you on my last reading update that I am also reading the e-arc for a novel story by Ashley Poston. So it's on my Kindle, as I say, because it's an e-arc, I don't have a physical copy. But yeah, I think from Ashley Poston, I've read The Dead Romantics, and I absolutely loved it. It was just one of those cute, fluffy romances, a little bit of depth in there, a little bit of kind of social commentary in there. But yeah, all in all, it was just a really cute, fluffy romance, and I really loved it. So when I seen that she was coming out with this one, I was really intrigued by the premise. So basically it follows our main protagonist. Her name is Eileen, and people call her Elsie. But side note, I absolutely love that the song Come On Eileen keeps coming up in this because it gets stuck in my head. I absolutely love that song, but that's by the by. But the premise of this one is that Elsie is part of a book club. She's recently broken up with her fiance, and yearly this book club meet up together just to kind of get together for a weekend, discuss their favourite books, do a bit of reading. And this year, for several different reasons, she's the only one that's available to go to the cabin for the weekend, and she decides to go anyway. And basically it starts off with her driving on a rainy road. She comes across a man standing in the road and stops suddenly. She must have taken a wrong turn, and essentially she ends up being in the town of her favourite novel or her favourite series. So again, instantly I was just intrigued by that premise of thinking, oh, imagine what it would be like to kind of wake up in your favourite book. You know, I think all of us as readers would absolutely love that. So I was instantly intrigued, and I'm about 46% of the way through, and so far so good. I'm really enjoying the writing again. It's basically, if you've watched a Hallmark movie, that's what this book feels like. It really feels like a Hallmark movie. It really feels like that kind of cozy, cheerful, fluffy romance type of movie. And yeah, I can kind of see it in my head. I think if you ever watched the series Once Upon a Time, that's the kind of vibes that this has given me, even though it's slightly different where it's fairy tale characters. But yeah, it's kind of giving me those vibes. It's small town, kind of the people in the town don't really know that they're part of a novel, and yeah, it's just about Elsie kind of going around the town and figuring that out and figuring out how she's got there, why she's there, how is this a real place. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see where the story goes, because at this point in the book I'm not really sure what the kind of plot device will be ongoing, because kind of got that premise, she's meeting some of her favourite characters, and it's just so interesting to then think, what would I say to my favourite characters, how would I interact with them? She's kind of treating them as if they're like celebrities, and I'd imagine I would be exactly the same. but yeah, so far so good. It's a really light, fluffy romance. I think I'm going to probably enjoy it just as much as I did with The Dead Romantics. As I say, about 46% of the way through. It's quite a quick and easy read, so I don't anticipate it'll take me too long. But yeah, again, I'll give you a bit of an update once I've read a bit more on how I'm enjoying that one. So yeah, I think they're two very, very different reads that I've got at the moment. So one's pretty heavy and pretty hard hitting with a little bit of comic relief in there as well, and then just have a novel love story to break up some of that as well, because sometimes at night, you know, you don't really want to be reading something too heavy before bed, and some of the things that happen in this, yeah, I don't want to be having dreams about that. I'd rather have dreams about waking up in my favourite book. So yeah, I'll give you a quick update once I've had a bit more time to read some of these. Other than that, I'm probably going to try and do a bit more of my journaling, and if I do, I'll give you a quick update on what I've done and show you kind of the spreads that I've done as well. But yeah, other than that, no plans, just a bit of reading, bit of chill time, and I'll give you a quick update once I've read a bit more. So just jumping in to kind of give you my final thoughts on the Poppy Wars, and if you just heard that snore, Yeah, living with a pug, you do get these noises. But yeah, just giving an update on the Poppy War and basically what I thought. I finished it this morning, and first thing I will say is this is dark. This is a lot darker than, I mean, I've been told it was pretty dark, but it was a lot darker than I was kind of anticipating, and I'm not sure why, because it is an adult book, it is about war. I've been told it was dark, but let's just say there's no bars hold on this one. Definitely check out some trigger warnings for this one. It basically goes into most things that you could think of that would be a trigger warning, so I would definitely say to check those out before reading this one, because there are quite a few things in here. I would say if you don't like a lot of discussion around body gore and things like that, there is a little bit of that in here. You can kind of skip over some of it, but it's definitely prevalent in this. I mean, it's talking about war, so it's talking about the realities of war, so yeah, just double check some trigger warnings. But I landed on a 5-star for this one. I don't think I could give it anything else. The visceral reaction that I've had to it, you know, that's kind of where my 5 stars are. If I have a visceral reaction, whether it's happy, sad, emotional, whatever it may be, and this one I just felt like I was there. I could really feel it. You know, I was getting kind of butterflies in my tummy when they were talking about certain scenes, when they were, you know, in the midst of battle. You know, I was getting that dread feeling when we were at a place where it was kind of, where do we go from here? And I think I did say earlier, but a lot of what intrigues me about this book is kind of how it makes you question your own morality and what you would do in certain situations. So there's a lot of things in here that our main protagonists do that you likely wouldn't agree with. You know, if it was just written on paper, you wouldn't agree with the actions that they take. But when you've lived with these characters from the start of the book right up until they get to the end point, you do kind of almost empathize with some of their decisions, even though, as I say, they're completely morally wrong. You do kind of see yourself kind of rationalizing those actions and rationalizing the decisions that they make because of kind of the history and the background around it. So I think that was a really intriguing thought process that I got throughout reading this book. It is based on true events. So I think it's the Nanjing or the Nanking massacre between Japan and China. I believe it was in the 1930s, and I don't know a lot about that, so I'm not going to start giving any facts or anything about that, but I believe the events in here are heavily inspired by that. Now obviously this is a fantasy book, there are gods and there's lore and things like that, so it's not like a direct historical text and you shouldn't kind of be looking at it for facts, but it is heavily inspired by those events, and honestly it really felt so real and so visceral to me. So yeah, I think in terms of the rating, 5 stars 100%, because the writing was amazing, the characterization was amazing. I think the way that the events were described, as I say, just felt so real and really got me thinking about how people maybe change in war times, how you're kind of put in this impossible decision where it's either your safety or the other side's safety. And yeah, I just think it was a really thought-provoking read. I think the two that I've read now from R.F. Kuang have been exactly the same. It just got me really thinking and really assessing how I would deal with a certain situation. But I think obviously that is kind of the overarching theme of the book. I don't want it to feel like it was a real slog getting through, because it really wasn't. I do think the way that R.F. Kuang wrote this really made it almost like a character study, even though there was so much plot going on. There was a lot of world building, there was a lot of gods and lore and things to kind of follow. For me, it really was a character study of Rin and kind of where she started, where she got to, and even the characters around her as well. It was really interesting to see where they ended up. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this one, and there's a lot that I could say, but obviously there's a lot of spoilers there, so I'll just leave it at this is an absolute 5 star for me. I'm not usually one to read kind of high fantasy that's just straight high fantasy that's very battle heavy or war heavy, but for me, I just really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the characters, really enjoyed the writing. There was absolutely zero romance, which again for me is quite new, so I'm really excited that I like this one, because again it could just be opening up a new kind of genre for me. But yeah, definitely recommend this one. It is, as I say, quite war heavy, quite plot heavy in terms of the world building, but I think if you're a character driven person like me, you will still find enjoyment with this and you will still be intrigued by the story going on, because that's kind of what gripped me. It was to see where these characters went and how they got out of certain situations and things like that. So yeah, I think don't be put off by thinking that it is too war heavy or it's something that you wouldn't normally enjoy. I'm definitely more of a fantasy romance reader. This was high fantasy, I would say, and I still really enjoyed it and gave it 5 stars. And then I also finished my e-arc for A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston today as well. So again, just kind of carrying on from the thoughts that I'd said before. It was a really fluffy, light, happy romance, which was a really good break from the Poppy War because it was a lot heavier. But yeah, it was just really light, really fluffy, really fun. Definitely felt like a Hallmark movie. If you like Hallmark movies, you'll probably like that as well. I will say, compared to The Dead Romantics that I read by Ashley Poston, it definitely wasn't quite as good. I think The Dead Romantics for me was like a 4.5. It really impacted me. I really enjoyed the story. I really loved how the relationship relationship was built there and kind of where the love story went with that one. With this one, I would say the main thing for me that I had an issue with was probably the pacing. I think the way the story was told was that we had Eileen, who was in this kind of book world. You know, she ended up in her favourite book, but it was also kind of giving stories from her past, from the characters in the book's past, from her friendships outside this book world, and then obviously the relationship in between that. And I think for me, it just made it feel a little bit clunky, and sometimes it wasn't obvious which time period we were talking about until, you know, a few sentences in. So yeah, for me, I think the pacing lacked a little bit. The MMC was a great MMC. I really enjoyed him. I thought he was written really well. I didn't 100% believe the chemistry between the two main characters, but you know, it's a short romance. I'm not expecting there to be a huge amount of, you know, relationship building there. They fell in love within a week. It is what it is. You know, you kind of expect that with these romance novels, but usually I can believe it. You know, I kind of set aside my disbelief. As long as there's chemistry there, I can buy into the romance. But with this one, it just wasn't 100%. It was like 70% there. By the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, I'd be invested to see what happens going on in this story. And I think almost the MMC had quite an interesting plot device, and I would have almost maybe liked to have read the book from his perspective rather than Eileen's, which is interesting. But yeah, I think overall I fell on a 3.5 stars for that one. So it was still a really good read, still definitely recommend it. I would probably recommend The Dead Romantics more than this one, but overall still really enjoyed the writing style, enjoyed the kind of cute fluffy atmosphere that she built. So yeah, would still recommend that one. I think that's everything for this bookish vlog. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed coming shopping with me, seeing my little haul, and kind of getting updates on my reading journal. You will have seen some of the B-roll. I've done a couple of more spreads, but I'm still very behind in that. I'm still in March, but hopefully over the weekend and over the next few weeks I'll be able to get some of those spreads updated. And as I say, my goal is to get to July by the end of this month so that I can kind of start fresh from that month, but we'll see how it goes. Sometimes you just don't feel as creative. Today is one of those days. I've done a couple of spreads, but I'm not really feeling the creative flow, so I'm going to just leave it for today, and hopefully over the weekend I'll be able to get some more spreads done. But other than that, if you like this video, it would be amazing if you could give it a like and also subscribe if you do want to see more from me. I'd love to hear some of your ideas of videos that you'd like to see. I will be posting 2 times a week, and it will be videos just like this, so bookish vlogs, reading vlogs, come shopping with me's, book recommendations and everything like that. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this one. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!